Hi guys, Luton here, back for some more Arma 3, and excitingly, we've got two new aircraft coming into the game. We have the A-164 Wipeout, which is basically a variation of the A-10, a very familiar aircraft to many people, very famous aircraft, and I think a lot of people are excited about that. Although I have seen some criticism because, you know, it's a slight variation on it, and some people are not too happy with it. However, as you can see, it is very, very heavily armoured. The armaments for the aircraft currently, it's a Gatling cannon 30mm, 1000 rounds. It's got 2 short-range anti-aircraft missiles. It's got 6 air-to-ground locking missiles. It's got 7 high explosive and 7 armor-piercing missiles to launch as well. Those are pod-based, and then you've also got 4 laser-guided GBU-12 bombs there. So it's pretty heavily armoured, and it can deal with a lot of stuff on there. Definitely more heavily armoured than the Buzzard, which is what people have been using currently, and this is obviously the plane flying within the NATO forces. Now, so far, for example, within Invade and Annex, I haven't seen that this is going to be implemented immediately. And actually, with Invade and Annex, I know that for a little while they took the Buzzard away because the Buzzard was almost becoming too powerful. When you had even a moderate pilot, the pilot could, you know, implement really heavy strikes to, you know, the most dangerous vehicles on the ground, and literally, you know, the players in the game would just come in and pick up just the remainder and then move in. A good pilot by that time could go back to the base, refuel, rearm, go off to the next base. You can hit side missions, everything. So in an aircraft like this, it's so powerful, it's so heavily armored, it's almost a little OP, but anyway, it's nonetheless extremely fun to fly. Now, I'm just doing this within the editor just to kind of showcase the aircraft for you, and we're going to take a little flight over to the firing range and engage a couple of targets over there just to use some of these armaments that the vehicle has. Now, nonetheless, I would like to see this implemented into Invade and Annex. I think it would be a good thing on the way there, and I'm sure that they can find a way to balance it alongside its extreme power there. For one thing, maybe increase the difficulty of the AI a little there. That might help things out a bit. But also, you know, you've also got to have a good pilot on board. If you don't have any good pilots around, then it's not going to be any use to you. So it's always important to have that factor. And I have not flown a jet for a long time, so I had a little learning experience today just getting back. Let's look at the instruments here as well. You can see this is all you know, sort of live and happening. The readings actually are accurate in terms of your height and so on, and you can see off to the left hand side there, that's actually the armaments control, and you can see when you switch between weapons, it'll actually highlight different weapons, and when you've used up all of the ammunition there, it will actually read that out as well. But something that really blew me away as well always is just the clarity of the cockpit here compared to, for say, an example, Battlefield 3. If you look around right here, just the fidelity and the definition within it all is so accurate and really nice and precise. It's just lovely to see that. I'm always a little bit disappointed, even on, you know, the PC, when you look down at some of the air vehicles in Battlefield 4, and even though it's the most up-to-date version that we have, for example, you get into the transport helicopter and it's just a pixelated mess, which makes no sense in my mind. I don't really understand how that can be when there are so many other elements in the game which are so sharp and crisp and perfect, and then you've just got this mishmash blur right in front of you, when what you want to see is this right here. That's what you want to see. And this aircraft so far, it's not particularly fast. I did try to look for some stats, but I couldn't really find anything, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not a stats person. It's not the biggest deal in the world whether you know the numbers. What's important is how it feels to you. And it's definitely a little bit slower. I mean, you can see right here up on the top left hand side, you can see the speed there, so it's flying kind of around the same speeds as the Buzzard, but it definitely feels slow and sluggish. It is an air to ground engagement vehicle, so therefore you're going to have those kind of slower speeds so that you can actually approach targets without just flying straight over them. You'll see when we get to the Nephron, and here we are, immediately Tigris identified. I'm launching those air to ground missile lock on, and that Tigris is neutralized. Obviously you want to take out the Tigris first of all, as that is the anti-aircraft vehicle, and then we've got a couple of other Barsics down there to just deal with. So having a little look over the shoulder there, just see what we hit. Going back on this side, but need to pull back around a little bit more. You can still see, you probably couldn't see that there, but I could see those 2 tanks just down on the ground right there. That's something that's really, with flying in Arma, it's extremely difficult because, you know, again, unlike other games, you don't have any kind of visual identification other than literally what you can see, and that can make the kind of long-range engagements really, really difficult, because at this kind of range right here, it's very, very hard for me to actually see where things are, other than if you can get a direct lock on, or if they highlight for you. And you can see right here that I really cannot see. I'm not sure exactly. You're changing over to bombs right here. Now, ideally, if I was going to be dropping these bombs, what I probably should have done is got a little bit more altitude, coming in, a little bit of a bump there as I come in. But those bombs are launched away, and I turn back around. You can see that detonation is almost bang on target. A lot of people, when they're launching the bombs, tend to come in kind of on a horizontal plane and then launch. Better to often come with a bit of height to actually drop them down. They tend to be more accurate that way. I'm launching away again the air-to-ground missiles there just to deal with that. I'm having a little look over the shoulder here. You can still see one tank active, so we're going to come back around again with those AP missiles and launch them straight into that armor. Obviously, Arma has a completely different pace to other games like Battlefield. It's much more considered, it's slow. You know, when you're operating the aircraft, it's not like Battlefield. You can't just whip around and then get straight onto your target instantly. You have to move away, you have to turn, come back, plan your approach, see the target, you know, figure out what you're going to use against it, engage the target. And obviously this is just me on my own, just, you know, sort of testing out the aircraft. Once you're actually in game, it helps a lot, because often you do have people relaying information. Also, you will have people laser designating targets for you on the ground. I often will be communicating with the squad there. We are launching those missiles in, just putting a full spread across. Just use them up. And yeah, often I'm communicating with the guys on the ground, and then you can use those laser guided bombs, or you can use those locking missiles to actually disable and destroy those targets very, very easily, because once they're laser designated, they're gonna hit guaranteed. As I say, that's a real benefit, you know, when you have those guys on the ground. Now, I saw that the tank had taken a hit, but the guys, the actual operators, had bailed out, and so we're coming in for a little bit of a Gatling run here. And you probably cannot maybe see it, but after my sort of waving spread right there, we do hit those guys and take them out. So it's time to return to base. Rearm the aircraft. So that is the A-164 Wipeout, as the name suggests. It's a really awesome aircraft. It's quite slow, so you got to watch out for those guys on the ground. Now, this was just a test run for me right here, but I would suggest that if this is enabled on a server where you actually have live and quite dangerous infantry on the ground, we all know that the infantry love to carry their anti-aircraft missiles. This is going to be an issue. Now, it is obviously armed with a complement of flares, and that is going to help you against those anti-aircraft missiles that are coming in on you. But really what you want to do is these kind of speed strafe runs. Slowing right down, crawling, and sort of dropping either from a vertical height or whatever is not necessarily going to be the way to go. The best thing to do is really to kind of come in from an altitude, come down, do a full run across the target area, and then pull away and keep travelling in the same direction. Because if you kind of fly around, pan around, I think what you're going to find is with the speed of this aircraft and its, you know, lesser maneuverability, it's going to be an issue there. You are going to have people locking onto you, shooting you down. So I think doing those kind of straight, heavy strafe runs is really going to be the order of the day, and communicating with your forces on the ground is going to be really important when it comes to that as well. Now here we are, we've landed back at the airbase, and we're just going to have a little look at the aircraft itself. I'm just going to literally sort of show you around it a little bit from the outside so you can get a little look in. And one thing that I absolutely love about it in this game is that when you actually get out and look at your armaments on the aircraft, you can actually see what's been fired. So for example, in the rocket pod, as you'll see in a minute, when you actually look at the rocket pods, you can see the missiles have gone. You can see the rockets have fired from that missile pod, and then you can see the ones still remaining that are left. You can see the missiles that have dropped and so on. So it's not just kind of like a visual aircraft, it's not just like a kind of, you know, a blocked polygon thing. It's actually like, you know, an operational element of the game. That's what's so good about Arma, you know. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of like a full-on sort of, you know, triple A game, but what it does have is this authenticity, and you know, all of that stuff kind of really helps you to be immersed in the game, which is, you know, for me what it's all about anyway. So here we are looking at the aircraft from the outside. It's pretty slick. I mean, it's a pretty awesome looking deal. It's grimacing face on the front there with that horrific cannon to rip it up. And here we can see the different armaments, okay? So there's your air-to-ground missiles right there with the Seeker on the front. There's the laser-guided bombs positioned under the center of the aircraft. Here's the rocket pods, and as I say, you can see the rockets that have been fired and those that have not. And then on the far side there, we've got the air-to-air missiles. There you are, look, see? The rockets have been fired fully from that one. There's a couple remaining in the other side, I think, right here. Yeah, there we are, look, you can see a couple remaining there. And that's the end of it. So that's my little look at the A-164 Wipeout, a deadly beast to be put into Arma 3, hopefully coming to an Invade and Annex server near you very soon indeed. But if not, in the meantime, you can get on here with the editor and have a little look around, or any custom missions that have been made. Of course, there is the campaign that they've been updating with an Arma 3 as well, and no doubt you can experience those aircraft right there. I will have the Nephron coming up as well, which has got some good air-to-air and air-to-ground combat happening, as well, of course, my weekly Arma live comments. We're going to be getting him back on the BVAR server. If you want to join me on the BVAR server this week, it's Fridays, just go search BVAR in the server browser. The guys there will be on from probably about 8 o'clock GMT onwards. I'll be getting on around about 11 o'clock through till 3 AM on Friday. So come join us there, guys. They're every week, Friday, BVAR. If you want some good games, look at these bombs. Just looking at the details here and the release mechanisms. The detail on these is absolutely awesome. So there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the little overview today. If you've enjoyed this, please drop it a like. Always helps me out very much. And I'll see you next time for a little bit more Arma 3.